Ladies and gentlemen, youth and children, Nisambulavinak. This week marks the second month in office of your coalition government, and I am thankful to God for His grace since we took our oath of office on the 24th of December last year. We have managed to achieve goals we had set for our first 60 days in office, and we continue to strive to achieve our priorities before the end of our first 100 days in office. We're pleased that our children have been able to return to school for the start of their academic year. In this regard, your government was happy to assist with a $200 back-to-school support. Nearly $50 million was paid out under that assistance. We also have removed the need to place civil servants on contracts and moved the retirement age from 55 to 60 years. The Ministry for Women, Children, and Poverty Alleviation will continue to review family benefits. So will the work on removing student loans and restoring scholarships in our tertiary institutions under the Ministry of Education. In addition, nearly 2,000 applications were received for those wishing to be considered to serve on boards and statutory entities and government-owned companies. Just 2 days ago, your government has put out advertisements for the positions of permanent secretaries. Ladies and gentlemen, during our third cabinet meeting last week, your coalition government announced the dates for the new Girmit public holiday on May the 15th, as well as the Ratu Salala Sukuna holiday on May the 29th. Arbitrary changes made to the Tokay Land Trust Act of 1940 that saw the passing into Act number 22 of 2021, also known as Bill number 17, is now under review. We have also made progress on plans to restore the Great Council of Chiefs, the institution that is still held with very high regard in Fiji. The Ministry of Itoke Affairs is taking the lead on this front, and the rebuilding of the GCC's Valenimbose, or meeting house, is scheduled to begin in May. Last week in Nandi, I was honored to be invited to address the 12th World Hindi Conference. Some of my cabinet colleagues also addressed that meeting. With more than 1,500 delegates in attendance, this was one of the largest conferences to be hosted by Fiji in recent times. I thank the Government of India for agreeing to bring this very important summit to our shores. One other quick win in foreign policy of our coalition government has been the decision by our Northern Pacific neighbor, Kiribati, to return to the Pacific Islands Forum. I assumed the role of chairman when I became Prime Minister. The unfortunate history that led to the resettlement of the people of Panapa in the Kiribati is a story of one of the world's largest environmental injustices. Since the displacement of the people of Panapa on the island of Rambe, in my province of the Konrobe, we have been gracious hosts. Our special relations with Kiribati was further strengthened recently when His Excellency the President of Kiribati, Tenasi Mamau, graciously agreed to bring his country back into the forum. I mention this, ladies and gentlemen, because this week, in fact starting on Wednesday, I will be hosting President Mamau and 17 other leaders at the Pacific Islands Forum Special Leaders Retreat in Denarau. This will be the same meeting where I will hand over the role of chairman of the forum to my counterpart in the Cook Islands, the Honorable Mike Brown. Among our achievements during the past 2 months has been the successful sitting of Parliament. It began with the opening by His Excellency the President, Turana Tuimaduata, Rotuiliame, Maivalili, Katunivere, on the 3rd of February, before I moved the motion on the floor of Parliament to thank His Excellency for his most gracious speech on Monday last week. There have been notable accomplishments in the parliamentary session as well. We can now use our native language in the August House, be it Hindustani or Wasawawiti. And for the first time after 17 years, the name of our Lord Jesus Christ was restored in the House's opening prayer. On behalf of your coalition government, I wish to place on record our sincere appreciation to the Honourable Speaker of Parliament, Turang Balna Tuidakau, for these milestone changes. Ladies and gentlemen, last week's Parliament session would also be remembered for the decision it took in suspending my predecessor, the current leader of the opposition, the Honourable Porenge Bainimarama. His response to the President's opening of Parliament was deemed by the House's Privileges Committee and endorsed by the members of your coalition government to be in breach of parliamentary privilege. I want to assure the nation that we in government did not take delight in doing what we had to do, what transpired last week. Indeed, if it was up to us, if it was up to some members like me, a genuine apology from Mr. Bainimarama would have sufficed. However, as some of you saw on national television and on the internet last Friday night, no regret or even an iota of admission of guilt was forthcoming from him. For a government that believes in the rule of law and upholds the proper decorum and respect for the highest court of the land, including the office of His Excellency the President of Fiji, we had no choice but to ensure that the law takes its course. We follow the same rule that Mr. Bainimarama himself, together with his government, had enforced in previous sessions of Parliament that saw the suspension of 3 members of the opposition, including the Honourable Speaker himself, Turang Balna Tuidakau. What message, ladies and gentlemen, would we be sending to the people of this country, indeed to the whole world, if we had moved to ignore the breach of parliamentary privilege by Mr. Bainimarama? If we had turned a blind eye, how would we explain that event to our children and the grandchildren? Much as we understand the implications of the decision that was taken in Parliament last week, the fact of the matter is this: everyone is equal in the eyes of the law, and rules are meant to be followed and obeyed. This, I believe, is the lesson that we should all learn from last week's session of Parliament. It is what the People's Coalition Government stands for, and it is what it will loyally adhere to. I want to assure you all that the People's Coalition Government is the government for everyone. Everyone in Fiji, all Fijians, whether you voted for the coalition parties or not, we will serve you. In this regard, your government will ensure that all allegations of police heavy-handedness or victimization of non-coalition party followers that were raised in Parliament by Fiji First MPs will be investigated. Your Minister for Home Affairs will liaise with the Fiji Police Force in ensuring that this practice, if true, is nipped in the bud. Other allegations linked to political events of 1987, 2000, and 2006 will be referred to the National Reconciliation and Unity Commission, once it is set up and operational. In addition, I intend to embark on a nationwide tour starting in March so that I will be able to talk to most of you and to offer my personal assurances that the coalition government is the government for all. I will also invite my 3 deputy prime ministers to do the same. Fiji is home to all of us, and we want you to know that we are not here to exact revenge, but to rule with fairness and with malice towards none. To conclude, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say that I meant what I said in Parliament last Friday night, that I have learned to forgive, for I have been forgiven many times. I also believe in the value of our Let Love Shine doctrine that was the People's Alliance moral compass during the general elections of last year. We must be kind and considerate neighbors. And our neighbors are not just the families next door. Our neighbors are everywhere. I served as an army officer for more than 2 decades and earned the privilege of serving you as your elected prime minister twice. I've learned to, as the good book says, count my blessings. It is my fervent prayer that you too will be able to count yours with God's grace and with the support of your coalition government. May God bless you all. May God bless Fiji.